Hey there, everyone. This is Sarah and Adi, and we are here to uplift and elevate. So I'm really excited for this conversation today because Sarah and I have known each other for about 18 years. Um, Sarah is a mental health expert and therapist, and she is a fellow colleague. She has been a yoga teacher for many, many years. How many years, Sarah?
Oh, it's been 14 years. So I love the way you say we've known each other 18. It's maybe you just think it feels really long. It's only been about 14, but
Are you sure?
yeah,
Um,
I know what I meant.
because you were one of the first people that I met when I moved to Jackson Hole, but
Oh,
um,
I,
nevertheless, we've known each other for a really long time. We have shared the love of yoga for many years, and I've always really appreciated Sarah's insights and wisdom with regards to life process, yoga, the yogic processes. And we're here today to just have a really raw and honest conversation about a lot of the things that are arising for many of us right now, and how we can really move through these times really skillfully, with sense, and with grace. So one of the questions that I have for you, Sarah, is, it's really a thought that's been coming up for me a lot lately, is that our choices really matter. And right now, more than ever, we're seeing that, that our choices have an immediate impact. And our choices have always mattered. But I think that people right now are more aware of their choices and how they matter. Can you speak to that?
I can speak to that, and I'll probably quote a smattering of teachers, authors, inspirational teachers that I read on a daily basis. Um, First of all, I want to go back to what you said about grace. I think that's the key word right now, is going through this with grace. And so with that being said, our choices, what we choose, whether we choose to react, respond, go inward, become more self-aware, that's a choice. I feel as though people think their choices of action and mobility are being limited, which to an extent they are. Yet if we go deeper, and this is from a quote, our choices of thought are never limited. And so we can choose whether we're going to go in a promotional way or demotional way with our thinking. And then from there, if we're going in that promotional way, we can make the next best right choice.
Yeah, well said. Really well said. Yeah, I think that, you know, how we conduct ourselves within ourselves is really limitless, that can never be taken away from us. Whatever our internal experience is 100% our own making. And outside of ourselves, there can be limitations. Outside of ourselves, we can come against adversity or struggle or difficulty. And one thing that I've also been reflecting on is how, fortunately or unfortunately, crisis and calamity is really the catalyst for people to wake up. It's the catalyst for people to change their mindset and shift their mindset. And I feel like right now, there's this tremendous opportunity to shift our internal mindset and experience. And creating that internal shift energetically feels like it's shifting the globe. It's shifting humanity. It's shifting our way of connecting and interacting, and not just with each other, but with this entire planet. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there's two motivators for change, for growth, and that's pain and fear. Absolutely. And what do we call it? Suffering. And of course, there's two types of suffering. One is very real. One is very painful. We either have a life-ending disease or diagnosis, and the other is self-inflicted and not always consciously. And so I think this time, as you say, is an unbelievable opportunity to make a shift within. I mean, we are being forced to go within. And those of you that are introverts like myself, I love it. I love working from home. I love teaching online yoga. I love this dialogue right now. There are people that aren't doing so well with it, that are having a hard time. And I want to speak to the women, the mothers, the matriarchs, if you will, of their homestead. And it's time to really stand up and stand in your power, because everything in the home, your children, your animals, I mean, they're all at the door right now. not my adult son, but they all tend to gravitate around you. Do you know, right? It's just that time of day, and they all just kind of come in. And it's so important that we hold our center and our calm and our vision on how this can make everything so much. This can improve on the systems that aren't working right now. I have felt less rushed in the last 10 days than I felt in the last, okay, I'm almost 60 years. Because there's no time police. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm running behind. I'll just text someone and say, hey, I'll be 5 more minutes. And everyone's so great with that. There are things that I have really enjoyed about the last 10 days that I don't want to return to my old normalcy in the rushing way or other ways. And I think it's important for people to reflect on what their normalcy was, and perhaps reflect on what they're not missing about it right now. You know, looking at it in a positive way, instead of, oh, I used to be able to go to the stagecoach and tie one on, or it's, you know, find something that you can reflect on. And for me, it's the not rushing. It's the being at ease, being in my home with my family, my 85-year-old mother, my adult son. You know, I love that community. And then there are moments when I have to go outside and just run around the block a few times. I don't know. I answered the question. I did a rough brand on you. I went all over.
Well, that's the purpose of this, is that this is just free flowing, and it will go in whatever direction it's supposed to go. And yeah, you know, I'm feeling very similar, that this time and this space right now is really creating an atmosphere of quality time. You know, it's not quantity, it's quality. And you know, having moments with my son that I haven't had really since he was born, you know, really taking the time to slow down, to pause, to do something creative with him, to be in a long conversation with him, you know, to make jokes. It's such a sweet time, and it's such a valuable time. And I think that this is a moment in time, a really critical moment in time, where we can truly accept the invitation to self-realize, to self-actualize, to self-love. Like, we are ready. That's why the planet is demanding this of us, because Mother Earth knows, you know, that we are ready to really go within, look within, sift through all of the things that we've been doing that have been overloading or covering really the true meaning of what really matters to us in this life, and to be able to really live this life fully connected with love, with grace, with respect, with compassion. And yeah, you know, my personal experience right now is that I mean, I love this time too. I feel like the yogis, you know, prepare their whole lives for physical distancing, you know, for physical space. And it's very natural in a way. It's very natural. It's like, wow, now I have all this time. I don't have to get in my car to drive to work. So I have an extra, you know, hour to an hour and a half a day that can go to my internal practices, or that can go towards being with my son, or going for a walk, or doing something that's really self-care and uplifting. So thank you for sharing your own personal. Do you want to add to that?
I have a question for you, Missy.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being interviewed, yet I have a question for you. I think it's important, you said earlier, that this time is providing that opportunity to go in and self-realize. I think a lot of people have a myth around what self-realization means. And a lot of people have maybe some resistance when they hear, oh, so-and-so is self-realized. You know, I think they maybe think they're levitating. I had someone ask me the other day, do you ever get mad? Do you ever scream? Or do you just levitate? I'm like, yeah, you can talk to my family if you want. Of course, I'm human. I think it's important that we define that, Adi, because I know what you mean by self-realization, self-actualization.
Well, you know, of course, when we add meaning or definition to words, there's always room for misinterpretation or loss, because the moment we label something, we can lose some of its significance. So that's really important to remember as we, you know, as we try to describe something indescribable, that there's always room and space for some you know, your own subjective interpretation is obviously going to impact. Yes.
And
so
I think the householder right now is hearing the word self-actualize as a layman, and they're thinking, how am I paying my mortgage? How am I getting food? How am I doing this? Will the electricity go off? What are we going to do about water? That's going to come down. That's not going to be high on their priority list.
Right.
Actualize. Yet through all that worry, through all that mind chatter, and that possible mild hysteria comes some self-actualization. And I think that's what you mean. It's realizing, what are my tendencies? What are my attachments? What are my aversions?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the more we can just pause and look at ourselves and be honest about what is really coming up for us internally, mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, the more we learn about all the aspects of ourselves, physical, mental, emotional, and energetic, the more we can actually take charge over the aspects of ourselves. So, you know, if life turns against you, my guru says, if life turns against you, it's even more important that you don't turn against yourself. Okay, so we're all being given lemons right now. And we are all facing an invisible adversity right now. But right now, what really matters is that we stop and we slow down so we can get a handle over what's going on. And we have to, there is an element of trust, you know, that if we really take this time to learn the lesson and to get to know ourselves a little more intimately, to watch our reactivity, to notice when we spiral out of control and when we can't self-regulate, to notice when we're worrying, which is only multiplying the problem. You know, worry and fear, I mean, fear is a very natural response to a threatening situation, right? It's normal. But for most of us right now, people are experiencing a lot of fear and panic, and they're not really fighting for their life, right? So temporarily it feels like you're in a threat, but your survival wise, you know, you're not being chased by a tiger right now. Now, some people truly are fighting for their lives, and these are the people that have to kick in that fight or flight response. But for about 90% of people right now, you know, this is the time to actually learn how to kick in your rest and digest response, how to learn to take charge of yourself. So no matter what's happening outside of you, you have control over what's happening inside of you.
Beautifully said. I feel as though Mother Earth is putting everybody on a timeout and saying, I need to breathe. My oceans need to clean up. The sky needs to be blue again and clear again. I need everybody to stop polluting and stop consuming. And to look at, again, all the systems that are in place that haven't been working forever. Where was I also going? I was going somewhere else. I think it's important for people to get online and start educating themselves instead of looking at being entertained. You're going to be entertained till the cows come home. You know, this could be months. It could be weeks. I heard someone say yesterday, 15 days it would be over, but you know, I don't trust that source so much. No names, no names, no names, know who I'm talking about. So I think it's important that we shift our priorities. So maybe instead of watching, I don't know, whatever people watch when they watch television, I don't know, educating ourselves, learning about, like from Joe Dispenza, learning how a thought creates a feeling, creates an emotion, creates an action. The neuroscience you were talking about when you did that blog last night about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic and the immune system, the lymphatic system. Learn about yourself. That simply can be self-actualization.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Sarah. I mean, this is a time that we really have a choice, what we listen to, what we watch, you know, what we surround ourselves with. I mean, first of all, we're pretty, most of us are simply with our family. Yeah. So what we choose to watch on the television or what we choose to look at through social media, and this has actually been coming up for me quite a bit, is more than ever, I've been on social media. I'm not a big social media person. And I really actually have to ground myself a little bit from it because, you know, there are certain times of the day that it's useful to be informed about what's happening with the coronavirus and what we really need to pay attention to so we can make responsible, sensible choices. But, you know, I'm hearing from people that they're reading about things all day long, you know, from the moment that they wake up to the moment that they go to sleep, and then they're not sleeping well and they're having nightmares, or they're just, you know, sleep deprivation kicks in, which is also not supportive for a strong immune system, you know. So we really need to pay attention right now. Now's the time to pay attention. What are my routines? What are my tendencies? What are my patterns? Am I just, you know, distracting myself even more with all this information and not really getting to the core of what this is about? And so one, you know, suggestion that I had for myself, which, you know, is really for everyone, is like, you know, do not read anything about what's going on an hour before bed. You know, listen.
When you wake up.
Yeah, or when you wake up, you know, before you go to bed, have a cup of tea, read, you know, an uplifting book, or listen to something uplifting before you go to bed, and really set the tone. You know, we have the opportunity right now to set the tone within ourselves of how we want to operate, how we want to think, how we want to feel, how we want to experience, you know, these challenges. And really, it is from challenge that there's great opportunity. And if it doesn't challenge you, it usually doesn't change you. And here, you know, all of humanity has an opportunity for significant change and transformation. What do you feel about, you know, this idea that yogis have around, you know, going inward and what that means? I mean, right now, a lot of people can't go outside, you know, and so when you can't go outside, you can go inside. And what does that mean to you? What are some of the processes that you incorporate?
Well, I've done everything from Vipassana, seated meditation for 7 days in silence, 9 hours a day, 45 minutes a session, to 3 minutes stopping and doing a breath exercise, like I did on the Intro to Kundalini class yesterday on the website.
So wonderful.
And simple things. I think people think of going in as it's got to be this like sit rigidly and be super focused and not feel anything uncomfortable, feel bliss or euphoria, or maybe I will feel uncomfortable and then I won't know what to do when that happens, or I'll freak out, or I really don't have time. But actually now we really do. So going in for me is just being aware throughout my day of every movement, everything I say, everything that's said to me. Because when we rest awareness, Adi, in the present moment, that's when divine intelligence flows. It doesn't flow when my will is planning for catastrophe tomorrow, or why did he say it that way, or why did I say it that way? I'm not in the present moment. And therefore that shuts down that flow of divine intelligence. And when I say divine, it can be nature, it can be whatever for people. Yet divine intelligence, our innate divine intelligence, we were born with it. It birthed us. And I'm going to go off on a tangent for a moment. I just watched The Shift with Wayne Dwyer the other night, and he articulates it in the most beautiful way. You know, we come from the infinite. We're born. We're perfect beings. Our parents hold us in their arms, and they say, kind of to the universe, "Okay, I got it. I'll take over now." And it can go downhill from there, right? You know, if they just say, "Okay, keep guiding," or, you know, "What do I do next? How do I teach this child to be guided?" And I know you do that. Yogis do that. And a lot of people do that. A lot of traditions do that. So I feel that for me going in, coming back to the point, is being aware in every moment.
Yeah.
And it can be a really uncomfortable, painful moment.
Yeah.
My head will not pop off if I stay present with it.
Yeah. No, thank you for mentioning that, because I do think that there's, you know, some misperception about what going in means, and simply your statement of, you know, it really is this moment to moment presence and awareness that you bring into your life. And, you know, for people who are wanting to start more internal practices, if it be meditation or breath work or yoga practice, you know, one thing that has really spoken to me, that my first, one of my first teachers, Baba Haridas, would always say, is that it's not a matter of how long your practice is. You know, don't set yourself up for, you know, needing to practice for an hour and a half or whatever, but rather do something every single day, having that consistency. So even if it's 2 to 5 minutes, but every single day having that momentary pause, and then that transfers into what your experience is of, you know, every moment you start to have more consciousness and more awareness around what's happening around you, within you. What's your interpretation? What are you thinking? How are you conducting this psychological process? Because you are the conductor of it.
Right. We're the projector, the conductor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like the Buddhists right now. The Buddhists say, you know, oh, samsara, suffering. We say suffering. Oh no, panic, right? I think it was Russell Rand that was talking about this last night. You know, this is a great opportunity just for you to know you, whoever you are. We become so invested in wanting our partner, I'll speak for myself, whomever, to get us and know us. Yet how much time do we really invest us getting to know us? You know? And it's through times like this that we get to know all sides of us.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's the human experience.
And that we get to sit even with the sides of us that we don't necessarily care for, and reflect on, well, how are other people then experiencing me? You know, if it's difficult for me to be with these certain aspects of myself, then how is that being projected into my relationships as well? Because, you know, yoga, it's all about relationship. It's about the interconnectedness of everything, with ourselves, with the planet, with humanity, with all living beings and all living things. And if we, you know, really pause and notice, wow, my relationship with myself is a little bit edgy, and there's friction there, and there's controversy there, or there's some conflict there, it really is a reflection of also the outer manifestation. And so this is really, I think, such a powerful time to heal and reframe the relationships within ourselves that need tending to, you know. And this is where I think you and I both share this common thread of, wow, this is really, you know, we really like this time because we're introverts, and you know, we like having more time for our sadhana. We like having more time to talk about these things. And it really gives us the space to attend to what we haven't been attending to.
Correct. I just want to throw out there, or throw in here, I you know, I felt a little on the word heal, probably because I hear it every day, as a clinician. And again, I'm not an expert in mental health. My clients are. They're all the experts on themselves, by the way. I'm just sitting there holding up the mirror some days as a shield. I feel like with the word heal, I hear people say it over and over. Well, I just have to heal, and then I'll feel better, or then I'll deserve this, or then I'll sit and meditate. And I think that the word heal can be misconstrued, like you were talking about how words in the context of which they're taken can be confusing, or there can be judgments around them. I think when people put that out there, that they have to heal, that they feel it's going to be this long process, and then they will have arrived at some point. And I think everything's sacred. The dark side, the light side. Better to know our liabilities, and good to know our assets. But the more in tune through going in and aware I am of my liabilities, the more power that gives me. And I don't mean power over anyone or anything. I mean power and wisdom for myself, right? Better to know what my little neuroses are. And because I sure know everybody else's, but it's more important for me to focus on mine. You go, oh, there you are, you know, like my OCD is having a heyday right now, cleaning and everything in place. And it's like, oh, well, the place is clean. I'm not going to judge it.
Right. Well, and it's also our liabilities that, you know, propel us to being the people that we are. You know, I mean, OCD is, you know, resonates with me. It's like, well, if we weren't OCD, possibly we wouldn't have created the things that we've created in our lives. And so there's even, you know, there's the light side to even the dark side, or if you want to define it as light or dark, it's neither here nor there. It's all part of this experience of life. It's just, what do we make of it? How do we sensibly take responsibility for the sides of our ways of thinking and feeling and behaving that really aren't supported in our lives anymore? Maybe at one point in time, things really supported us and served us and played a very significant role. And as we evolve, because we are ever-changing, evolving beings, you know, sometimes those things, we start to realize it's time to let that shed. You know, that doesn't need to stick to me anymore, especially if it's a behavior that's continuously perpetuating, you know, destructive or volatile situations in your life. But the first step is just noticing it and being aware of it.
So that could be 3 minutes of going in, just being aware of your breath, reviewing some responses or reactions you've had. And I would invite people, as I invite clients, to try to err on the side of curiosity versus judgment. Curiosity is an emotion, and there's a great book called Power versus Force. I want to say Steve Hawking, not the Stephen Hawking, but I believe it's Steve Hawking. And he talks about how emotions are measured in frequency. And so hopelessness, suicidality being at the very bottom of the barrel. And then it moves up to, you know, frustration and agitation and all the rest. And then anger's right up there. A lot of people get stuck there because it feels a lot better than hopelessness. But right at that middle point where they move from hopelessness to what society would call the better, good feeling emotions is curiosity. So if a person's having a hard time going from depression to euphoria, who wouldn't? And no one's asking them to go there. I ask them just to get curious about what it would feel to feel slightly better than hopeless. Just curiosity counts. And so I would say, as you're going in and you're doing your practice, no judgment, catch yourself judging if you judge, and get curious. You know, it's a little like step board or jump board or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really awesome. So Sarah, if there were a few things that you would suggest, a few practices, maybe some to-dos of how people can really stay just grounded and in their center right now, what would you offer to people watching?
Yeah, I have a few ideas, and there's so many great people out there right now posting things as well. I would say number one, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. It's a hard time, everybody's struggling, and somebody most likely is struggling more so than you. I would say get connected. Don't isolate. Social distancing doesn't mean isolation and discrimination, as your teacher I heard say a couple of days ago. It's about staying connected, and also get invested in this community, because I'm feeling right now for the small business owners, I have a lot of clients that own businesses, as maybe you do, and they're struggling. They have not only their mortgages and maybe their kids in college, they have their business mortgage and they have their employees to think and worry about. So however, like we're ordering out dinner from a couple places in town, reaching out to different businesses and seeing if they're doing anything or needing anything. I know the police they're now delivering medications to the seniors over at Pioneer. I think it's like getting with your friends and getting a committee together and seeing how you can reach out and help others. If you have a dog walker or a housekeeper that comes, maybe sending them off a check anyway, but keeping people going. Because here's the deal, we're gonna need everybody when we come back online. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful, Sarah, because you know, stepping out of ourselves and getting out of our own way and serving those around us in need is really such a powerful way to get out of our fear and to get out of the panic. And not only are we contributing to our community, and not only are we doing what we can when we can, but you know, we're actually making things happen. So we feel a sense of involvement. We feel a sense of purpose when we contribute in that way.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
What would some of yours be, or a few of yours? I mean, you've mentioned going in, creating that practice.
You know, mine right now are pretty simple, I think. Just really appreciating the quality time that you have right now with yourself and with your loved ones. You know, taking that time to send a message or pick up the phone to a distant relative or friend. You know, making a warm cup of tea and just slowing down in the evening. And like I said earlier, not reading all about the news and just going through social media all night, you know, doing something that's really nurturing for you, for your system, for your heart, for your mind. And, you know, practice. And when I say practice, it could be 2 minutes of just taking the time to pause, because from my own personal experience, we can't just think about these things. Yeah, we have to apply ourselves and actually put some effort into creating the shifts that we want to create, you know, inventing ourselves the way we want to be. Being the person that you want to be requires some time to really practice and look at yourself and just be with whatever it is that comes up for you. If it's, you know, scary thoughts, or if it's peaceful thoughts, and just note it, see it for what it is. And just in that process, there's shifts that start to happen within us. and little changes, gradual changes start to occur. And I really, truly do believe that as we shift this microcosm, we shift the macrocosm. And this is our opportunity right now.
Absolutely. And I feel like the macrocosm right now is just kind of like massaging us. It's kind of like squeezing us. Like, come on, you guys, wake up. We've given you how many billions of years of opportunity? Do we have to squeeze you more? Okay, you're all on timeout. You're inside. And it's the little things that we do every day, tiny little things.
Tiny.
I have one last little story, because most people that know me know that my son, my adult son, has been living at home for a while. And if they know my son, they know his personality, and that he's you know, very correct, and he's very solid. He's such a support, and he's very reasonable and rational and likes things the way they are. And I've been using one of his desk chairs when I set up for the online streaming classes in the morning. And this was a beautiful interaction yesterday after I taught for you. He came out and he said, you know, I do need that chair at this certain time. And then he looked at me, he goes, it doesn't really matter. I just hugged him. I'm like, oh, I love you. You've just grown.
Right. What really matters.
Not about the chair.
Yeah. Yeah. The little things that we make so big, you know.
Yeah.
Get some perspective about what really matters.
Yeah. So just a couple minutes of sitting and then being aware for the rest of the day. And I hope we continue these, and we give examples, and we invite more topics in. I think it's needed at this time.
Well, you know, this is what is keeping me really inspired, is having these uplifting and elevating conversations about what we can do, you know, what is available to us right now, and how we can keep ourselves. And just hearing your insights, you know, like I said in the beginning, I've always revered you as just a very insightful and wise being, and I really appreciate what you do for our community, not just locally, but also globally. So thank you.
You're sweet. And I appreciate so much the community you've created out there on the West Bank and around the world through Yoga Today. I want to acknowledge that, Adi. Thank you. Thanks for your big heart and your wisdom as well.
Thank you, Sarah.
Well,
have a great day, and thank you everyone who ever joined us, and we'll see you again.
We'll look for you again. Okay. Blessings.